honesty, integrity, respect, kindness, emotional stability, similar interests. These are all things that women don't care about at all. They say these are the things they value. If you ask a woman to describe her perfect man, 9 times out of 10, she'll start listing off all these virtuous character traits, and most of them probably are delusional enough to think they really do value those things. But when you actually observe women in the real world, and you observe the men they choose, there are certain patterns you'll pick up on if you pay attention. And it doesn't have anything to do with honesty or kindness or emotional stability, or any other personality traits for that matter. The one and only thing in common all chosen men share is that they are physically attractive. Obviously, there are ugly dudes out there that have wives and girlfriends, but in the vast majority of those relationships, the woman is even uglier than the man. Or there's some other circumstances that are preventing her from having any better options. And I know that's the case because I was the ugly dude in one of those relationships. And not only was my girlfriend less attractive than I was, but there was also other reasons why she chose to date me. Namely because I'm a United States citizen and she wanted to be one. But that hardly even counts as a relationship anyway, since we were never even intimate. But today I want to talk about why women say they value all these virtuous traits when what they really value is a six-pack abs and a chiseled jawline. I also want to touch on just how big a contrast there is between what women say they want and what they actually want, as evidenced by their behavior. You know, it's really hypocritical how a woman will say all she cares about is personality and she just wants a good guy with a strong sense of integrity. Yet what we see time and time again is that the average woman will drop her man in a heartbeat if she thinks she has a chance with a more attractive, higher status man. But before we get into all that, what exactly are the physical features in a man that women really crave? I'm not a looksmaxer, so I'm not going to sit here listing off all these esoteric facial features like women like guys with a mid-face to anterior scrotal ratio between 1.8 and 2.3. You know, I'm not trying to get into all that kind of scientific detail here, but to put it in simple terms that everybody can understand, women like men that are tall, they like men with broad shoulders, men that are lean, they like a full head of hair, clean, straight teeth, and they like a guy with a good-looking face. A man doesn't necessarily have to be in the top 10% in every single one of those features, but generally speaking, those are the things women find attractive in a man. So whenever you hear women talk about their perfect man and they're talking about honesty and kindness or whatever, the thing you need to understand is that they're already working under the assumption that it's just understood that they're talking about a man that meets the physical requirements. No amount of kindness makes up for being bald and fat with narrow shoulders. Anyone that says otherwise is either gaslighting you or they're just really naive. So why do women not just say what they actually want? Wouldn't it be easier for more men to put in the work necessary to actually become attractive to women if women were just more open about what it is they're really looking for in a man? Well, there's a couple of flaws in that logic. For one thing, most of the features women are attracted to are mostly genetic. It's not really things you can improve on. I mean, sure, things like how straight your teeth are or how lean you are, those are relatively within your control. But most of these things like how tall you are, how broad your shoulders are, how much your hair is thinning, and especially your overall facial attractiveness, there are things you can do to improve in most of those areas, but usually not by much. It mostly just boils down to your genetics. And then the other flaw in that logic is that Women don't want there to be more men that meet their standards. They just want the best man there already is. And also, when it comes to personality traits that actually matter to women, the biggest thing is assertiveness and confidence. But even with that, it's not like they actively seek out those traits. They're not actively seeking to find an assertive man. It's just that generally speaking, women don't want to work hard. They don't want to take initiative. They don't want to have to think about things and make decisions. So they don't want to have to do the work of thinking introspectively and figuring out what it is that they truly value in a man. They want to be able to just spout off some blue pill socially acceptable bullshit and then let men do the work of figuring out that everything they say is actually nonsense. Women don't want to have to take on the risk of revealing their true preferences and saying something that might be considered controversial. They'd rather just repeat all the same normie talking points everyone's been saying since forever, so they get to look innocent, and then men can be the ones that have to work out mentally what's actually true and what's just utter nonsense. But that's only even true about a small subset of women that are actually honest with themselves. I think most women, and this applies to most men too, it's just a human thing, but most women are not honest with themselves. They delude themselves. They actually believe that what they value in a man is that he's really super duper kind and he always tips well and he always bends down to pet a stray cat and blah, 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 whatever. They actually believe that that's what they want. But you have to understand, a woman will be saying all these things, but the man she's picturing in her head when she says this is a guy that's like 6'3", lean, athletic build, handsome face, nice hair. Average and below average looking men are so invisible to women, we literally don't even cross their minds when they're thinking about how they value kindness and respect. It's just assumed that the man they're talking about is attractive. And you will get women where if you ask them directly, like you showed them a picture of Brendan Fraser from The Whale next to a picture of Henry Cavill, and you point to Brendan Fraser and you say, "This man is extremely kind. He never lies. He donates to charity. He volunteers at the local animal shelter, and he's got a great sense of humor." Then you point to Henry Cavill and you say, "This man is a liar and a cheater. He's in and out of prison. The only person he cares about is himself." Then you ask a woman, which man would you choose? A lot of women would probably say they would choose the 500-pound Brendan Fraser. And they would believe it too. It's not even technically lying because they actually believe it. That's how little self-awareness some women have. Now, in an extreme example like that, I'm sure plenty of women would just outright say that they choose the criminal Henry Cavill. But a lot of women would look you right in the eyes and, well, if you look like me, then they probably wouldn't look you right in the eyes. They don't want to look at you at all. But they would say that they choose Brendan Fraser. And they would believe it too. When in reality, of course, we all know if they were actually presented with that choice, 99.99999999999% of women would simp for the psychopathic, narcissistic criminal that looks like Henry Cavill. But look, self-awareness is something that requires introspection, and most people don't do that. Most people never think about why they believe what they believe or why they do what they do. And I do think it's more that way for women just because you got to think, if you lived your whole life just always acting on impulse and you always get away with it, whatever you do, you never get called out for your bad behavior, you never get corrected when you say something just completely stupid, why would you develop any sense of self-awareness? Why would you reflect on your thoughts and behaviors and everything when the external world already validates you constantly? Because most women that are at least average looking do live more or less like that. They receive validation constantly from every angle. Men always validate them because they want to, make love to them. And also because from an early age, we're all conditioned to believe you're supposed to treat women like they're all perfect little angels, which is mostly an artifact of a time when women had a certain role they played in society, while men had a different role. But nowadays, women get to play any role they want, while men are still all expected to fall in line in that same role as the expendable provider. But that's not what we're talking about today. Men validate women, and women validate women, and all our institutions validate women, just commercials or whatever, corporate DEI programs. Society is just full of propaganda telling women, you can do whatever you want. You can be whoever you want. The world is your oyster. Meanwhile, men just get scolded as if we're all the stereotypical construction worker whistling at women on the sidewalk, when really that's like basically nobody acts like that other than homeless people. But even that is a form of validation that women receive. So yeah, they don't have to do any internal self-reflection. They just don't need to. Actually, speaking about catcalling, that's a great example of something that virtually all women say they hate it, but in actual observable reality, catcalling works if you're good looking. Women say they hate to be approached in public when they're just going about their day, but when it's a hot guy that approaches them, they love it. I remember back when I lived in a big city, I would sometimes take the train at night to this area where there's a lot of bars and everything, and there's always a lot of people partying, because I just thought it was entertaining to walk around and do a bit of people watching. Because I would always see some crazy shit going down, even if it was just like a random Tuesday night. I remember seeing some normal-looking guy get in a fight with a homeless guy that he started. The regular-looking guy started it, or that's how it looked from what I saw. But the homeless guy knocked him out, and then when the guy woke up, his girlfriend was just standing over him screaming in his face like, "You idiot! You see what happens? Blah, 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 blah." And the homeless guy was still standing there too, talking shit like, "I just beat your ass, boy." It was just brutal. But anyways, that's not the story that I want to tell for this video. So one time when I was down in this happening part of the city one night, doing some people watching, as I walked by this one bar, there was a young lady walking in front of me, and this guy that was just standing outside smoking, he was like, "Damn, girl, look at you." And the girl kind of turned around and laughed, but she kept walking, and then the guy was like, "Come here and talk to me." And she kind of slowed down and shouted back to him like, "Sorry, I'm busy." Then the guy ran over to her and he started talking to her, and she stopped and they were talking. Then, so I was just walking down the sidewalk, and then I would turn around and walk back the other way. So it was about 5 minutes later, probably, when I was headed back in the other direction. But when I passed by again, they were still standing there talking. And I saw the girl putting her number in the guy's phone, because she was doing something on a phone, and then she handed it to him, and he put it in his pocket. The girl was holding some plastic bags like she just went to the store or got some food or something, by the way. I don't think she was out clubbing. So it was the exact scenario women always tell men not to do. She was just going about her day, running errands or grabbing dinner or whatever. Then this guy catcalls her, and she obviously liked it. She was immediately smiling about it, and then she gave him her number. So, yeah, there's just a huge discrepancy between what women say they value in a man and the actual truth of the matter, which is that what women truly value in a man is looks. If a man is good looking, then none of the rules apply. The rules are just there to keep unattractive men and high inhibition men from getting too uppity. They want the men that they would choose to choose them first so they don't have to. But they say they don't want to be approached and they just want men to leave them alone because they know that most good-looking men aren't going to listen to that anyways. Because good-looking guys tend to be confident and assertive from a lifetime's worth of experience, always getting validated by women. Not always. Modern society is very gynocentric. It is a very anti-male society we're living in, so there are lots of good-looking guys with low confidence, but there's enough hot guys out there that are confident and assertive that women don't need to worry about how their gaslighting affects some attractive men in a negative way, because there's still enough good-looking, assertive men that'll ignore all the dumb shit they say and make moves on them anyway. Okay, so some women are lying. Some of them are just naive and lacking in self-awareness. But either way, the vast majority of them tend to say the same things as far as what they're looking for in a man. And usually what they say are all things pertaining to a man's personality. But there are countless examples of men that embody all those virtuous traits that women say they want, yet they still end up alone or just having very limited success with women. And there's even more countless examples of absolute misogynistic, narcissistic, criminal pieces of shit that absolutely clean up with the ladies, even when they're literally abusive. I mean, just look at how serial killers like the Nightcrawler, for example, literally had groupies. And yeah, I know serial killer groupies obviously are not regular women. That's an extreme example. But even those women, they never say that the reason they like the killer is because of the crimes he committed. They always say some BS about how he's just misunderstood. He wants to change. He's a really great guy deep down. You know, even those women try to gaslight with all the talk about how what they're really attracted to is a good heart and a kind soul or whatever. And also, it's not every serial killer that has groupies. Where's all the groupies for John Wayne Gacy? Oh, that's right, they don't exist because he's fat. One thing that every man needs to understand is if you are struggling to attract women and you want to improve your situation, the only kind of self-improvement you should even consider are things that will make you look better. Red pill gurus and dating coaches, and even any normie blue pill folks giving you advice, the thing they all have in common is that they usually will put at least an equal amount of emphasis on telling you you need to work on your game. You need to work on charisma, the way you talk to women. They'll have you spending an inordinate amount of mental effort and an inordinate amount of money on clothing just trying to improve your looks through style, which, yeah, you can make yourself look better by dressing well, but for most men, that's not going to move the needle much, unless your current wardrobe is completely fucked up. And even so, I promise you, if a tall, good-looking guy goes out in public wearing Crocs and Wrangler jeans from Walmart with his Tasmanian Devil t-shirt tucked into his jeans with a braided belt, he will still clean up. People will even say he looks stylish. They'll call it dadcore or something. Meanwhile, if I wore that same outfit, people would just assume I have low-functioning autism. Improving your style should only be looked at as a secondary measure for improving your looks. Your face is the most important by far. Your height is also very important. Of course, with face and height, there's not really a lot you can do outside of cosmetic surgery, which is the reason that all these red pill gurus and dating coaches love to underplay the importance of height and face. And when it comes to cosmetic surgery, I personally don't recommend it just due to the risks involved, but that's a decision you can make for yourself. So what I would say is, if you still have hair, do whatever you can to make sure you don't lose it. Make sure you take care of your teeth, and if your teeth aren't straight, then getting braces should be your first priority. And if you're fat, then you need to lose weight. Building muscle is also good, but it's not as important as being lean and having a good looking face. And that's really all you can do to improve your success with women. It all comes down to the physical because that's what actually attracts women. That is what women are attracted to. It's not your personality. It's not the things you say. It's not the way you act. Most women probably would prefer a man to have all of those virtuous traits like honesty, integrity, kindness, and all that, all the things they say they want. They're not exactly lying when they say they value those things, but those things are not a prerequisite for getting with the woman in the first place. But looks, being good looking, that is a prerequisite. Good looks is a requirement. A good heart is a bonus. Most women and even men will say it's the other way around, but that's just gaslighting and naivete. A man must be attractive to get the girl. And then if he's a good guy on top of that, then great. That's a bonus. I'm sure any woman that locks that man down will be overjoyed to have her kind-hearted Prince Charming. But personality is meaningless when you look like Kevin from The Office. Idris Elba, with Kevin's personality, would still slay with women. But if Kevin had Idris Elba's personality and he still looked like Kevin, he would still be viewed exactly the same. In fact, women are disgusted by an unattractive man that acts confident. So even if you were able to emulate the personality of a man with good game who's confident and assertive and everything, that's just going to get you locked up for harassment or something. Or at the very least, you'll just be making women even more uncomfortable than you already do. And forget about women for a second. If there's one thing I hope you can learn from this video, it's that you should not pay attention to what people say. Pay attention to what they do. If you found anything I said insightful, or if you like hamburgers or ice cream, please consider watching some of my other videos. There's also some secret videos you can watch for free on my Patreon. No sign up required, so check that out. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.